Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over a much colder pattern for the western United States. They'll be dealing with a little bit of snow, especially in the higher elevations, and then we'll also be dealing with a bit of a warmer pattern in the central and eastern United States. We're also going to be going over the implications that this may have on November and December, because it looks like we might actually have the opposite of what's happening right now when we get into the later fall and also into the winter. So here's a look at the current National Weather Service page. As you can see, we have a few red flag warnings in effect for a little bit of Montana, Wyoming, and South Dakota for fire danger. We have some air quality alerts in effect for Central California, some dense fog advisories in Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. And then we have a few flood watches down in Florida, Alabama, Georgia, and a little bit of Tennessee as well. Yesterday, we had a high temperature of 103 degrees in Death Valley, California, with a low temperature of just 10 degrees in Peterson's, Utah. The highest rainfall report was 5.77 inches in North Little Rock, Arkansas, and there were no snowfall reports yesterday. So let's start this off with a bit of a longer range outlook. So this is the GFS model. I'm using the GFS because it has actually been quite accurate as of recently, but also because it is one of the models that goes out the farthest, so we can get a good idea of what's expected all the way out until even the 20th of October. So we're currently in a negative PNA, and the PNA stands for Pacific North America Index. So it's an oscillation that looks at the western side of North America, and then also the eastern Pacific, and then finds an averaged out kind of data point for the upper air pattern and temperature pattern. So it's basically showing you whether it's colder or warmer in the west, and instead of having to look at a map to see that, we can just look at this graph and it'll show that. So we're about 3 or 4 standard deviations below the mean as we head around the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. So that's the kind of time when we bottom out. When you have a negative PNA, usually that means that you have a colder pattern in the west and a warmer one in the central and the east. So if we were to see a positive PNA, especially for 1 or 2 or 3 standard deviations above the mean, that's when you would have the opposite. You would have a colder pattern in most scenarios in the eastern half of the U.S., and you would have a colder one from the Rockies westward. So and this PNA pattern is very, very crucial, and it's important to look at because it can give you some early signs into what may happen. You're not going to see me bring this up a lot in the summertime because it really will not have big implications, but as we get into the fall and winter months, you'll start to hear more of the PNA, the NAO, the AO, EPO. All of those are oscillations that are going to basically show you what the projected pattern is. For example, a negative NAO, that's usually colder and snowier in the east. A negative EPO usually brings warmer conditions. So all of these different oscillations have different impacts on the United States, and that's why you're going to start to hear them being called out a little bit more as we get closer to winter. So I think it is within the time frame. Once you get past October 1st, you can really start to look at these oscillations because they do have some merit and they do correlate. You can remember that we probably were beginning that warmer period just based off memory around the 25th when it started to get fairly warm in the eastern United States, and that's when we started to dip down below that 0 threshold, and now we're going to be going all the way down to maybe 3 or 4 standard deviations below the mean. But what happens when you have a sustained period of warmer temperatures, or in this case a negative PNA, usually you'll see a rebound, and that's what we see at the end of this. If you were to look at any model, the European model, the GFS model, any other model really, you'll see the same upward trend as we get around the 20th. So what I'm thinking is that probably around the 25th or 30th of October, this pattern will start to turn around, and you'll probably start to see a little bit of a colder implication for the eastern United States. And In my opinion, if you like cold and snow, you're probably rooting for this to be the case, because you would rather have the warmer temperatures in October, when you're probably not going to see too much snow anyway, instead of having it in December or January, and you're kind of eating up those prime months for snowfall. So this is one of the really important things to track, and I'll keep on mentioning it here on the channel over the next few videos. So let's start talking about the temperature pattern on the surface. And then we're going to look at the upper air maps in just a little bit. This will be for tomorrow. We're starting off with a bit of a warmer pattern into the west and also the northern plains, but watch out for these colder temperatures up in British Columbia, because these are going to be sliding on down into the western United States. So they enter Washington and Oregon as we get into Wednesday morning. The rest of the country, for the most part, except for the southern plains, will be on the warmer side of things. So basically the west coast is going to be the only area that'll really have any sort of cold temperatures. You get east of the Rockies, and you're going to be hard pressed to find anything that'll be below normal. So it'll be fairly warm within these spots. If you go to Thursday, you can see that you're really starting to feel the effects of these colder temperatures. You're looking at about 7 or 8 degrees Fahrenheit below normal by Thursday. So these are going to be temperatures in the morning hours that'll be down in the 40s and even some 30s. As we move this on to Friday morning, you can see that those colder temperatures slide on down to California, and you kind of have this little slither which goes from Montana and northern Idaho all the way down the Pacific coast and all the way down into Southern California. If we move this on to Saturday, this is when we start to see this colder air mass split off from Western Canada. So it was originally here, and now by this point it would be making its trek further to the south, and it would be closer to the southwest instead of the northwest. We are also going to be tracking a little bit of potential snowfall, especially in the northern Rockies, and if you live in the upper Midwest or the Great Plains, especially for this area right here, there is a threat of a little bit of snowfall, which we will be talking about in just a couple minutes. So here would be for Sunday morning, and you can see that we have some colder temperatures still in for the southwest. Again, this is a regular signature of a negative PNA pattern. You have that troughing into the west, and then you have that ridging or warmer temperatures into the eastern United States. And then actually into the central Atlantic, you would see that kind of dive down again, and you would have more colder temperatures down here with your high pressure still over eastern North America. Here would be for Monday, and you can see that we have some colder temperatures now starting to re-enter the northwest. Meanwhile, we still have this other air mass of colder temperatures into the southwest as well, warmer still for the eastern half of the United States. So here's a look at the total snowfall. Now, don't really look at the exact amounts, and I'm really not going to look at the exact amounts until we're within, I would say, 5 days of this event. This is going out 10 days, so until next Thursday, which would be October 14th. This is how far that snowfall map is going out. Now, there are some models like the GFS, which for the past couple of days have been showing a storm by next week, early next week or midweek, showing some snow into this area. Not even just for the higher elevations, but also again for those lower lying areas into Montana and the Dakotas as well. But I think the best bet is going to be over the interior mountain west. If anything does happen in the lower elevations, I will definitely be covering that, especially if it happens up in the upper Midwest, because that would be their first snow of the season. So I do want to cover that, and I'll have my snowfall forecast. I'm not going to have that out just yet, because I've seen already people talking about this system as if it's kind of set in stone, as if it's gospel that this will happen, even though it's really not that set in stone. There's really not too much evidence supporting that. So I'm going to hold off until we're within 5 days, and then maybe I'll start talking about specifics with that system. But again, you're going to see a lot of people trying to clickbait with these storms in the upper Midwest this time of year. Just know that even if you do get snow, I'll be covering it on the channel if it does happen, but it'll also probably not stick to too many roads or hard surfaces, just because it's going to be a little bit warm while that's happening. So you're going to, again, see the clickbait. You're going to see the people trying to milk it for views, and just know that it's probably not happening, and you want to mainly trust the National Weather Service. If there is anything, you'll have probably a winter weather advisory or a winter storm warning or a winter storm watch put up in effect. So I really would not trust the people who are putting up these snow forecasts 10, 12, 14 days out in advance, because again, it is way too early for that. Let's look at the upper air maps, and you can see that we do have a bit of a complex pattern. We have a high pressure into the central and eastern United States, as well as central Canada. We have a little bit of rain down in the southeast. That's provided by this low pressure system down here. And then we have another low pressure system into the northwest. So this will be by tomorrow. And then if we go to Thursday, you can see that this low pressure system does kind of dive on to the west coast. So by this point, when we looked at the temperature anomaly map, you notice that it was basically just for the western 7th or 8th of the country. So you really had to get far west to get in the colder temperatures. Much of the Rockies and the interior mountain west were still under some rather warm temperatures, just because this low pressure is still offshore. But as we move this on to Saturday, it comes into the Rockies. So now by this point, you would be dealing with rather chilly temperatures, as well as some snowfall in the Rockies. And I do have some viewers from the interior mountain west where this would be impacting. If you're looking at high elevation snowfall, that's going to be fairly widespread. But lower elevations, I think it will also be widespread, with the exception of some areas like the areas around Boise, Idaho, in that valley. I don't think you'll see too much snowfall, maybe a quick coating, but really nothing substantial. You're going to have to kind of be a little bit chillier, especially in areas like the Salt Lake City metro, to get some snowfall. But I think there is a good vast majority of the west that could definitely get a little bit of snow over the next few days. Areas like Denver, you're going to have to wait out maybe another week or so after the system goes by to see some snowfall. So it's still early in the season. This is only October 9th by this point on the model. So we still have the entirety of October, November, December, even through January, February, March, April, and even May when you can get snow in these areas. So we still have a good 6 months or more of winter to go, and it's definitely going to be fun to track it. Here would be by Monday, and you can see that we have that next reload of colder temperatures into the northwest, and then we have this system which was originally up in Utah, Nevada, and Idaho on the previous frame, and now this one is going to be heading out further to the east. And if we look at the next frame, you can see that the low pressure, which was up in British Columbia, has now dived down into the southwest, and it's going to be kind of a repeating cycle. You get systems coming up from Alaska, they dive down into the west, and then eventually they move up and then kind of just cycle in and out. So this is going to be going on for at least another 10 or more days within this area. If we look at the 8 to 14 day outlook, which is from the 12th through the 18th, you can see that we're expecting the colder temperatures to stick around in the western third of the country, with warmer temperatures for pretty much anywhere east of the Rockies. If we look at the precipitation anomaly map, this is also very good news for those of you who live in the west or also in the northern plains, because you guys do need some of that rain, and it looks like you will be above normal in the amount of rainfall or snowfall that you'll be getting in the next 8 to 14 days. So within the next 2 weeks, you're looking at a fairly sizable and good amount of rain, which is definitely good news for you up in the, especially in the northern plains. I know they were dealing with a big drought, even into southern Canada in the prairies. I have a viewer, I believe, from Winnipeg or around that area that was talking about the drought. They haven't seen a lot of rainfall recently, and hopefully some of that rain can get far enough north to hit them, because they definitely want some rain up there. If you look at the Drought Monitor, pretty much anywhere in that orange color, in the deeper orange, or above, so in the deep orange, the red, the dark red, for anywhere basically northwest of this line, there are some serious implications with the drought. It is making it hard to plant crops and seeds in these areas, and it is making the harvest a little bit less so than what it normally would be. So hopefully you guys can get some rain, because they definitely do need the rain. And then especially in the west as well, with the water supply issues, they need a little bit of rain as well. It has gotten better in the past few months, but it's going to take a while to really make it up. I don't really envision within the next 6 months even that California, Nevada, Utah, Idaho, Oregon will even get out of the severe drought, or that second shade of drought. So it's definitely going to take a while for most of these areas, especially in the interior west, to fill up on rain enough to really get out of that drought category. But either way, that is good news that you guys will be getting some rain or snow in the higher elevations. This is going to be an interesting pattern to track. I'll have my forecast over the next few days. If we have any snowfall in the northern plains, or in the lower elevations, even in areas like Denver, Salt Lake City, and also Idaho as well, anywhere pretty much in the United States, I'll have some videos on that. I'm going to wait until, again, within 5 days of whatever given storm to make a video, just so that's a little bit more accurate. It's really fun to start to get into the winter months, because we can start putting out those winter related videos, and I can start showing you guys the snowfall maps and graphics. So I'm excited for that, and hopefully you guys are as well. If you don't want to miss any content, make sure you are subscribed and you have your notifications turned on. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below, and I'll be responding within a few hours, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Goodbye.